Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So if you're thinking about buying or building a home right now, you've probably noticed that neither option feels particularly easy or affordable. And you're not wrong. The current housing market is genuinely one of the most complicated environments for homeownership decisions in recent memory. Mortgage rates are elevated, construction costs are high, inventory is tight, and the gap between what homes cost and what most people can comfortably afford has never been wider. So today, I want to walk you through the complete build versus buy decision, the real numbers, the real risks, and a clear framework for figuring out which path actually makes sense for your specific situation. Because the right answer is genuinely different depending on where you live, what your timeline looks like, and what you're trying to accomplish. Let's get into it. Let's start with the numbers because I think a lot of people are working with incomplete information on this. The average cost to buy an existing home right now is around $398,000. The average cost to build a home before land is around $323,000. So on the surface, it looks like building is cheaper. And that's where a lot of people make their first mistake. Because once you factor in the cost of land, permits, site preparation, utility connections, landscaping, temporary housing while you're waiting for construction to finish, and the construction loan, which typically runs 1 to 2% higher than a regular mortgage rate, the real all-in cost of building a home is typically somewhere between $487,000 and $645,000, sometimes significantly more depending on where you live. So building is not cheaper. In most markets, building ends up costing 15 to 30% more than buying an equivalent existing home. In high-cost markets like California, New York, and Massachusetts, building can be 40 to 60% more expensive than buying. That's before a single thing goes wrong. Now, does that mean building is the wrong choice? Absolutely not. But you need to go in with accurate numbers, not the sticker price headline. Let's talk about what building actually gets you, because there are real and significant advantages that can absolutely justify the premium in the right situation. The most obvious one is customization. When you build, you design the space around your actual life. The layout, the finishes, the technology integration, the accessibility features, all of it reflects exactly what you need, instead of what some previous owner wanted. For people with specific lifestyle requirements, whether that's a home office setup, multi-generational living arrangements, accessibility needs, or just a floor plan that doesn't exist in the existing inventory in your area, building may be the only real option. The second major advantage is operating costs. New construction is dramatically more energy efficient than most existing homes. Modern insulation, windows, HVAC systems, and the ability to integrate solar and battery storage from day one can meaningfully reduce your monthly utility bills for decades. When you're doing a 30-year cost of ownership analysis, those savings add up to a real number. Third, everything is new and under warranty. You're not inheriting someone else's deferred maintenance. You're not about to discover that the roof is 18 years old or that the electrical panel needs replacing. For the first several years of ownership, major repair costs are dramatically lower. And fourth, no bidding wars. If you own land, you own land. In competitive markets where every decent home gets multiple offers the day it lists, there is genuine value in removing yourself from that competition entirely. Now let's talk about what buying an existing home gets you, because the advantages here are real too, and for a lot of people, they're actually more important. The biggest one is predictability. When you buy an existing home, you know the price, you know the closing timeline, and you can be moved in within 30 to 60 days. When you build, a 6 to 12-month construction timeline is typical, and that's when everything goes according to plan. Weather delays, permit delays, supply chain issues, contractor scheduling conflicts, all of these are common and most of them are outside your control. Cost certainty is the other side of that same coin. Building budgets overrun by 15 to 25% in normal circumstances. That means if your construction budget is $500,000, you should genuinely expect to spend somewhere between $575,000 and $625,000. If you don't have that buffer, not as a contingency you're hoping not to use, but as money you're genuinely prepared to spend, building is a risky proposition. Buying also gives you established community, mature landscaping, known school districts with track records, proven neighbors, existing infrastructure. These things sound soft, but they matter enormously to quality of life, and they matter to resale value too. And for first-time buyers in particular, buying is almost always the smarter starting point. Construction management is genuinely complex and stressful, even for experienced homeowners. Doing it for the first time while also learning how homeownership works in general is a lot. Let's talk about financing because the current rate environment matters a lot to this decision. Mortgage rates are currently elevated compared to the historic lows many buyers locked in just a few years ago. And that shift has meaningfully changed the monthly payment calculation for both buying and building. For construction specifically, construction loans typically run 1 to 2% above regular mortgage rates, which on a large build adds up to real money every month during the construction period. If you're buying, the main financing consideration right now is making sure you buy at a payment you can comfortably afford at today's rates. Don't stretch your budget based on the assumption that you'll refinance later. That may happen, but plan as if it won't. For first-time buyers, there are government-backed programs worth knowing about. FHA loans allow down payments as low as 3.5%. VA loans are zero down for qualified veterans. USDA loans offer competitive rates in rural areas. These programs exist specifically to make homeownership more accessible, and a lot of people who qualify never explore them. Now, I want to give you a practical decision framework because the build versus buy question is not one size fits all. Build when you have specific non-negotiable requirements that don't exist in the current inventory. Energy efficiency and modern systems are a genuine priority. You have timeline flexibility of at least 12 months and ideally more. You have a 20% contingency buffer above your construction budget. And you're planning to stay for at least 10 years because you need that time frame to recoup the premium you're paying to build. Buy when? You need to move within 2 to 3 months. Budget certainty matters more to you than customization. You're a first-time buyer still learning the market. Local inventory has good options in your price range. Or you're comfortable with updates and renovation and can find a home with good bones that needs mostly cosmetic work. There's also a hybrid approach worth knowing about: buy and renovate. Purchase an existing home below market value, make strategic improvements, and end up with something between the predictability of buying and the customization of building. Done well, this strategy can be 15 to 25% less expensive than building new. Done poorly, it has all the cost overrun risk of building with none of the warranty protection. So experience and planning matter a lot here. Let's talk about regional variation because where you live changes this calculation significantly. In high-cost coastal markets, California, New York, Massachusetts, the Pacific Northwest, land costs alone can make building prohibitively expensive compared to buying. In these markets, buying an existing home and renovating is usually the better financial decision, unless you have very specific requirements and deep pockets. In moderate-cost markets like Texas, North Carolina, and Georgia, building typically runs 20 to 30% more than buying up front, but the long-term value proposition is more balanced. Builder competition in these markets helps control costs, and land is more accessible. In lower-cost markets across the Midwest and rural areas, building and buying costs are often much closer to comparable, and limited existing inventory can actually make building the more practical option. If there simply aren't enough homes for sale in the area you want to live, building on available land starts to look a lot more attractive. Let's talk about the risks, because both paths carry real ones and you need to go in clear-eyed. Building risks. Cost overruns are the big one, and I cannot stress this enough. Budget for 20% over your contractor's estimate and treat that money as committed, not contingency. Timeline delays are nearly universal, and you need a plan for where you're living and what you're paying during construction if it runs long. Quality control requires active, ongoing involvement. You cannot hire a contractor and disappear for 6 months and expect a perfect result. Buying risks. Hidden problems in existing homes can be expensive and sometimes catastrophic. This is why professional inspections, not just a general inspection, but specialized assessments of foundation, electrical, plumbing, and roof in older homes, are non-negotiable. Renovation scope creep is the buying equivalent of construction overruns. You start with cosmetic updates, and 6 months later, you're replacing the plumbing. And in competitive markets, overpaying is a real risk when emotion drives decision-making in multiple offer situations. All right, let's bring this home. The build versus buy decision comes down to 4 things: your financial capacity, your timeline, your lifestyle requirements, and your risk tolerance. If you have a specific vision that doesn't exist in your market, timeline flexibility, and a real contingency fund, building can absolutely be the right move. The customization, energy efficiency, and new construction warranty have genuine long-term value. If you need to move on a reasonable timeline, want budget predictability, or are earlier in your homeownership journey, buying an existing home and updating it to your taste is usually the smarter, lower-risk path. Whatever you choose, go in with accurate numbers, not the headline averages, but the full all-in cost for your specific market and your specific situation. Get pre-approved for financing before you start seriously shopping or planning. Build a real contingency into your budget regardless of which path you take. And talk to local professionals, a real estate agent who knows your specific market, a builder with a track record in your area, and a lender who can walk you through all the financing options available to you. Home ownership is still one of the most powerful wealth-building tools available to most people. The market is genuinely challenging right now, but it is navigable with the right information and the right plan. If this was helpful, drop a like and subscribe. I put out videos on personal finance and building wealth every single week. And let me know in the comments, are you team build or team buy and what's driving that decision for you? I read every comment. I'll see you in the next one.